Our next esteemed speaker is Dr. Kavitha Chinnaiyan, who will talk about enlightenment in Śākta Tantra. Dr. Chinnaiyan is a cardiologist, physician scientist, and professor of medicine, a wife, and a mother. She has published extensively and serves on various committees and organizations in cardiology and cardiac imaging. An initiate in Śrīvidyā and non-dual Śaiva Tantra, she has studied Tantra, Advaita Vedanta, Yoga, and Āyurveda with teachers across the globe. Known for her clear, humorous, and incisive teaching style, she makes time-honored traditions practically accessible through the amalgamation of science, biology, technology, esoterism. She is the founder of Svatantra Institute. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so honored to have you with us today.
Thank you very much. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Śrīmatre Namaha. Thank you for having me here to speak about enlightenment in Śākta Tantra. And it's a hard act to follow, Staneshwarji. And he did cover quite a bit of what enlightenment is in Śākta Tantra. However, I'm going to kind of weave in a little bit of what it means to us in personal practice and how it may differ from other traditions, and we'll take it from there. So when we think about Shaktism, which centers around the divine feminine, it feels as though this is a new thing, that this is a path that is coming across now and in response to something else. However, that is not the case, because Shaktism, or the earliest forms of Shaktism, can be seen actually when you carbon date history into, particularly with regard to artifacts. You can see artifacts belonging to approximately 20,000 to 23,000 BC. Wrap your head around that. That's really old. And then even at that time, right? So 23,000 BC, you also see some collections of the use of yantras, for instance, in which triangles manifest this symbolism that at that time was connected with fertility. And then after that, we see this unfolding of history. And now we come to the later Indus Valley population centers of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro. And there is when we start to see that these people brought their own rituals to these cultures. And there you see that there was a huge place given for the feminine, the divine feminine. And so a lot of the rituals and the philosophies actually came from these goddess-focused traditions, which then expanded down to the south of India and the South Indian territories as the Dravidian civilizations. And so then we start to see the development of the cult of Shakti, which was a pretty significant aspect of that Dravidian religion as well. And now we come to this concept of Shakti at that time, which became an integral part of this religion. And the female deities that we see now, such as Durga, Kali, and Parvati, and especially the Saptamatrikas, or the seven divine mothers, they all come from that Dravidian religion. And again, very, very old. So, but Shaktism, or this Śākta tradition that we know of now, we think begins with the literature of the Vedic age. So during the development and the exposition of the Vedas is where we see Shaktism again come into its current form, evolving and kind of flowering throughout the next many hundred years, from the time of the Indus Valley civilization down to about 300 to 700 CE, as it continued to expand and develop. And it is between the 13th and the 18th centuries that we see the development of the Śākta Upanishads, which really get into the matters and the nuances of Śrīvidyā, which centers around the goddess Tripura Sundari. And then we see the continued development of the Puranas centered around Devi, or the goddess, such as the Devi Purana, Kalika Purana, and other types of Puranas. Now, what are Puranas? So here you have the Vedas, which are very high thought, organized in these 4 different Vedas, and in very high language, very sophisticated language, extremely difficult for the common lay person to understand. So in order to make the teachings of the Vedas more accessible to people like me, people like some of us, the Puranas were developed, where these high thought kinds of principles are given out in the form of stories and in the form of life lessons. And here we see the Devi Purana, the Kalika Purana, and other such types of literature where Devi is not just a figure. She's not just a goddess that sits somewhere and rules over nature. She is nature. She is Prakriti. And so that is where we start to see the development of the goddess in the Puranas, especially in Puranas such as the Markandeya Purana, the Brahmanda Purana, and the Devi Bhagavata Purana. So this is where we start to see the development of Shaktism. Now, even through the development of all of this, there is a burgeoning need for a totally new system where the goddess is not subservient to a male deity, such as Vishnu or Shiva or any other male deity, that she would remain the center of a tradition and not be subordinate to any of these other deities. And in fact, those masculine deities would become subordinate to her. And so it is now that we see the development, particularly of the image of Kali. Now, you have seen the image of Kali, the tantric image of this wild goddess who is standing upon Shiva. And it is here that we begin to understand the dynamic nature of Shakti, that she is the one that gives him life. And without her, he is nothing, right? He is a mere corpse. Without her, dance upon him. And that he is Purusha, the passive witness, and she is Prakriti, the dynamic aspect of nature that is ever evolving and unfolding and developing and coming down into this realm of emanation and moving up towards transcendence. It's all her. So from this image of the dynamic goddess, who is now the center, and all of the male deities are subordinate to her, then we see the development of the Śākta philosophy, which is based on the understanding and the expansion of the evolution of creation from nothing. So here is this nothingness, which is represented by these 2 great forces, these 2 great entities of Shiva and Shakti, one the passive witness, the other the active nature, in absolute union. And in absolute union, they do nothing. They are still. And it is with their separation that we begin to see the expansion and the creation of the multiverse. And here we see this evolution, or rather the devolution of creation from this highest principle by the way of the 36 tattvas. Tattva means principle. And so these principles they come from the Shiva Shakti as the highest tattvas, and they devolve down through the formation of the various aspects of the universe, the structure of the universe, the intelligence of the universe, coming down to the individual, your mind, your intellect, your body, and then all of the 5 elements, this material body that is created from nothing. So that is the devolution of creation through these 36 tattvas that we see in common with non-dual Śaiva Tantra as well. But here in the Śākta philosophy, we see that the goddess is the center. She is the front and center of this entire creation. So let me explain this to you in the form of a story. And this is a story that I really love, right? So in the beginning, there is just this great goddess. You may call her Kali, you may call her anything you want. But she roams alone. She is all that exists. And then she decides, well, I just need a playmate. I need somebody to play with me. And so out of her own self, she creates Shiva. And then she says to him, I want to have the infinite possibilities of experience. And he says playfully, sure, why not? You can have whatever you want. You are the queen of the universe. And she says, okay, in that case, what we'll do is let's create all of these infinite forms of the various universes. Let's play in them. Let's see what it's like to experience pain. Let's see what it's like to experience pleasure. Let's see what it's like to experience the worst of the worst and the best of the best, and everything in between. Let's see what it's like to be the black holes. Let's see what it's like to be the stars. Let's see what it's like to be the moon of a tiny little blue planet. Let's see what it's like to be seasons. Let's see what it's like to be atoms and subatomic particles, and the infinite chemical and electrical reactions that make up a living entity. And so, with this agreement, this universe comes into form. And here we see that Shakti, she is that supreme Brahman. The supreme Brahman, that is the ultimate realization of the self as this transcendent reality of Vedanta is now taken into this tantric principle as being that Brahman, as well as everything else in creation. Brahman here is not a static passive principle. Here, Brahman is both static as well as dynamic. When Brahman is static, that Brahman is known as Shiva. When Brahman becomes dynamic, that Brahman is known as Shakti. One cannot be known without the other. In fact, the way to understand and know that transcendent Brahman is through the immanent Brahman. The way to know Shiva is to enter that portal through Shakti. The way to know the formless is through form. The way to understand anything is through Shakti. And therefore, she plays alone in the universe. And so if you see the iconography of Kali, she is dancing in the cemetery. She is the only one that exists. And she's dancing on Shiva. And all around her are corpses. And all around her are severed heads. In fact, she's wearing the severed heads and continuing to drink from this skull cup the juice of being this, that, and everything else. So Kali is all that exists, or Shakti is all that exists. And she plays in this grand cemetery of the universe. And this is the realization that becomes the goal in Śākta Tantra. So enlightenment in Śākta Tantra is the realization of Brahman, but not the static witnessing aspect of creation. Here, enlightenment is the marriage of bhoga and yoga. Yoga, yoga is that ultimate realization of ourselves as the divine. But bhoga is like saying, I'm going to have fun while doing that. So I'm going to realize yoga, but I'm going to have fun in that realization. So it's not one of deprivation. This path of enlightenment is not one of deprivation. It is certainly not one of sense renunciation. So you don't withdraw into a cave, close off, shut off all your senses and try to go within. That is not this path of Śākta Tantra. This is the path of bhoga, of entering that portal through the very thing that binds us. What binds us? It is this limited understanding of ourself as this mind and body. But the body here is a very important aspect of creation because the body is the vehicle for transcendence. And therefore, it is the temple of ecstasy, for ecstasy as well as transmutation. You cannot experience anything, let alone enlightenment, without the body. And therefore, the body is the ultimate portal for expression and realization and enlightenment in Śākta Tantra. So in most schools of Shaktism or Śākta Tantra, we see that there are two main pathways to achieve this goal of yoga and bhoga. You can go through the right-handed path or the left-handed path, the Dakshina Marga or the Vama Marga. Vama means left-handed. It's left-handed because it is the path that goes directly into that which binds us. If I have a problem with something, if I have a judgment and a belief that holds me back and keeps me bound in this identity as this body-mind, then that becomes the vehicle for my transcendence. My very limitation is what I will need to enter. And I will have to enter that bravely. And a lot of our limitations have to do with norms created by society, norms created by culture, and norms created by our own morality, such as those that are created by religion. So while morality is very good for harmony in the society and for everybody to, kind of get along with each other, on this path, that becomes a hindrance. And so in the Vama Marga, or the left-handed path, that thing that holds us back, whether it is a cultural, social, or moral norm, becomes the gateway, the pathway. So whatever is part of my culture that says, I cannot do this, I'm not supposed to do this, Vamachara will go directly there and say, why not? If you're not supposed to do that, do exactly that. Because in doing that, you come to release this identification with the body-mind. And while you're doing that, you are enjoying the process, ideally. Now, in the Dakshina Marga, in the right-handed path, we are not such daredevils. So we still follow all those rules. And we still go through those cultural, social, moral norms. And through a different set of austerities and a different type of bhoga or enjoyment, we achieve the same goal of yoga through this transcendence. And here too, it is through immanence. In neither of these paths, and then there are other paths too. There is a Mishrachara, for instance, which is a combination of Vamachara and Dakshinachara. So none of these paths have to do with absolute sense renunciation. So that is really, really important to understand. Now, even when there is the understanding of a sense renunciation, such as in renunciates who are Shaktas, who follow a particular tradition, there too, that enjoyment is internalized. So you are not rejecting anything, whether you are a renunciate or you are a householder. But Tantra is especially conducive to the householders like us, and it is known as the householder's path, because here the emphasis is not on giving up something. It is on enjoying it to such an extent that it does not bind us. That is the key for enlightenment in Śākta Tantra. Another important aspect of this path is that of the mediation of practice and of internalization and this understanding through a guru. So in Śākta Tantra, the guru is hugely important. In fact, the unity of the guru, unity with the guru, is one of the important milestones of the journey. And the guru is the one that can navigate our, sometimes perilous path through either Vama Marga or Dakshina Marga, where we are not deceiving ourselves. We are not indulging in a sense experience for its own sake, where it is now feeding our egos. And the ability for us to discern these things is actually quite limited until we are way advanced on the path. And the guru's role becomes really important because they help us kind of navigate these kinds of tight spaces where we need to be able to discern, why am I doing this in the first place? What is the purpose of this particular action in my practice, in my personal practice? And the guru kind of ferries us along. And somewhere along the way, we get to have this experience of being one with the guru. And eventually, this absorption of the guru comes with the absorption within the great goddess herself. In this path, on this path, the most important thing to understand is nothing is rejected. No experience is rejected. There is no such thing as pure or impure. There's no such thing as good or bad. Every aspect of creation is looked at as an aspect of the goddess herself, because it is. Remember what we said, that she is that dynamic aspect of creation, wanting to experience herself in all of creation. So if you look at, a good symbol for this, the Sri Yantra or the Sri Chakra is the perfect symbol of what is represented in Śākta Tantra, because it is the perfect symbol of creation, where the macrocosm and the microcosm mirror each other perfectly. So every inflection within the fabric of the universe is an emanation of the great goddess. She's called a yogini or a devi. Every inflection. So your pain, your suffering, your illness, your rage, your envy, your greed, your hunger, your disgust, your satisfaction, your contentment, your enlightenment, every single aspect of you is a portal to transmutation. And each of these elements is actually an element in the grand scheme of the Sri Chakra. So when we start to traverse the Sri Chakra in our sadhana of the great goddess, we come across all of these human tendencies. We come across various aspects of our physiology, such as digestion, respiration, metabolism, language, speech, intelligence, memory, you name it. Every aspect of our physiology is represented in the Sri Yantra as yoginis. They are all vibrating, scintillating aspects of the great goddess. They're all goddesses. They're all yoginis. And we meet them in our journey to this great goddess who subsumes and pervades all of her minor aspects. So it's not like these are all, differing aspects and she is ruling over things that are separate from her. No, they're all different aspects of her. So the important thing to realize here, especially when it comes to the understanding of bhoga, is that of rasa. Rasa means juice. And the body is the vehicle for experiencing juice. Now, what do we mean by juice? Every experience has its own juice. Every experience has its own juice. The experience of rage has a juice. The experience of pleasure has a juice. The experience of lust has a juice. Everything has a particular signature. In fact, in that iconography, in that story I told you, it is Kali who holds this cup, the skull cup, and she drinks from it. She drinks this blood that is in the skull cup, and that blood is rasa, the juice of experience. So in other words, what is the purpose of life? If you ask anyone, what is the purpose of your life? You may say, well, the purpose of my life is this, that, or the other. The way we see ourselves with respect to our contributions, with respect to our relationships, and the legacy we leave behind, for instance. But that is not the definition of a Śākta. If you ask a Śākta, what is the purpose of life? The purpose of life is to experience it. That's all. The purpose of life is to simply experience it. Experience what? Everything that comes your way. Experience it. Now, your question may be, aren't we always experiencing it? Yes, we are. But we are not experiencing the rasa of each thing that comes to us in its pure form. Because we meet experience with our own conditioning of, I want this, but not that. But when we become open to experience and everything comes in and we are enjoying that, without really saying, this is pain, I don't want this, this is pleasure, I want this. And even pain is welcomed simply for its juice. That is the ultimate experience of enlightenment. Because that is bhoga and that is yoga. Nothing is rejected, everything is welcomed, knowing that I am experiencing this experience is me, the one who's experiencing it also is me. And that is that fundamental triad, the triad of the Devi, the great goddess, the guru, and the self, or the subject, the object, and the relationship between them. And once I understand that I am all three, then it doesn't matter what comes my way. And that is the highest experience of life, of this embodiment. And that is the purpose, really, of life in Śākta Tantra. As long as we are identified as the mind-body, we suffer. But somewhere along the way, our identity switches between the self and the guru. And finally, the unity of the three happens, the goddess, the guru, and the self. And we realize that to be the case. And this is the ultimate expression or the experience of self-recognition. I am the cause of my universe. I am the cause of my universe. And when that expands to all of the universe, I am the Devi, I am the goddess, I am the cause of all of the universe. And that self-recognition is known as pratyabhijna. Pratyabhijna, self-recognition. So now the body is the vehicle for the conscious manifestation of the goddess. So this body then now becomes, when this realization happens, when the self-recognition occurs, then this body becomes the vehicle for the conscious manifestation of the goddess. Until then, it was an unconscious manifestation of the goddess with a whole lot of, I want this, but not that. And when the body opens up, we open up, the mind opens to all of experience, then that is the conscious manifestation of the goddess. She then plays here. She is already playing in here, but now there is a conscious, playful attitude of opening to life and to experience as it comes. So life then is enjoyed as this and this and this and this, with no expectations for the future to unfold in a particular way, because we have understood that the linearity of time doesn't exist as we think it does. And so now we begin to dance in the cemetery of time, like Kali, on all the corpses that are our past memories and our past impressions. We play on them, we dance on them, and we drink from the skull cup. That is enlightenment in Śākta Tantra. So I'll stop here and see if you have any questions. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak, and thank you for your attention. Srimatre Namaha.
So very beautiful. Another stunning speech, another stunning talk. So much for us to take in and internalize. Thank you so much. So questions, audience? Again, another stunning speech. Everybody's trying to take it all in, internalize it, hold on to it. So very beautiful. I had one quick question as you ended on the concept of time, which we know as a construct. Could you maybe tell us a little bit more so that we have a bit more to chew on and take away?
See, what is time? Time is a sequence of events. And without, it's merely a sequence of events, because that is how we measure time, right? But time doesn't actually exist. So if right now, if we were to look at some aspect of our past, the past doesn't exist except as memory. You can say, well, it exists in me as a memory. Well, it exists in me as an energy, as an energetic form. Yeah, sure it does. But it still only exists as that. It does not exist as time. In fact, time now also doesn't exist. And where is now? You can't catch it. By the time you say now, the now is gone. Right? So time is not actually a thing. So it's impossible to say, I am in the now. That is an incorrect statement. I am not in the now. I am the now. Right? And time is occurring in me. That is the key, that is the key shift that needs to happen. That time, I'm not the one that is unfolding in time. In fact, time is unfolding in me. And the future too, it exists only as a thought. Where? Now. The past exists as a thought. Where? In the now. Even the idea of now exists only in the now. And I am that. Right? So time is tricky. And that's why you can't really catch Kali. You see, Kali is the great principle of time. Kala means time. She is Kali. She is time, and you can't catch her. As long as you are in linear time, you will not experience Kali, because she does not exist in linear time. Right? That's why she's always dancing.
Thank you so much. So beautiful. You make it so easy to understand and to grasp onto. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Not so much a question, But to hear you break down Kali and Shiva like that, I never really heard it explained like that. And it's just like, wow, I get a whole new understanding of it now, you know, that I can wrap my head around a little bit, you know. So thank you very much.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Great.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Dr. Chinnaiyan, once again, we're very, very grateful that you chose to honor us with your presence. It's been such a pleasure and privilege for us. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful Navratri coming up.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye. Thank you.